All right, what's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Christian Kuntz Podcast. We're here with Trey and Jesse. Swing behind the boards. Tanner just rolled in. I don't know what he's doing, but we are joined by a very special guest, a Pittsburgh legend, Neil Walker. Neil, thanks for coming today, brother. How you feeling?
Thank you. Good. I'm doing great. How you doing?
I'm great. You brought this bat.
Yeah,
I had to bring this out because, you know, I've been talking mad shit for everybody in Steelers that I got to win the home run derby.
And
So
we're getting you locked in.
all right, I got till like August. It'll be around mid-August where I got to be ready. And the quarterbacks won it every year I've been there. And obviously Ben's won it probably every year before I was even there. So
We can't let that happen again.
a long snapper coming in to win, Mike T will not be happy. And that's
yeah.
that's actually all my goal is to have him hand me that trophy. And he's like, fuck. I can't believe I'm handing this trophy to this guy, the worst athlete on our team. That's what he calls me. But that's not true. We know
No.
that. Neil, I gotta jump right into this. I was talking to you out there, and I already told you. I remember you playing football, 3-sport athlete, athlete of the year.
Dog. He was a dog.
Yeah.
Did you have multiple offers in football, baseball? Like, how did your high school kind of finish up? Like your high school career in all three sports?
So yeah, it was my goal when I got to high school that I wanted to play 3 sports all the way through high school, and I got pretty close to doing that. My junior and senior year, we had good football programs. We lost in the Whitfield Championship my junior year to Hopewell, which that was a team just loaded with Paul Puslosny and that crew. So that season ended then. But then the following year, we played Manheim Central for the state championship, and that rolled all the way into like the second week of December, and I was beat up, so I decided not to play basketball that year. But no, I did have some opportunities to go play football.
Yeah.
I loved. I wanted to go to Penn State, but their baseball program was not very
good.
not very good.
Trey's happy. Trey went to Pitt. Yeah. He likes hearing that.
Pitt didn't exactly have the best baseball program.
Yeah, it didn't. It's
They do now, though.
They do now, yeah.
They're pretty good right now.
My goal was to go, from a baseball perspective, go south. So Clemson at the time in the early 2000s was one of the top programs. Bowden's son was the football coach there. I had general conversations with him, and it was basically like, well, you know, what happens in spring and all that, and they were like, well, you need to delegate your time, and I was like, no, I'm not going to do this. But my thoughts were that I was a free safety and a wide receiver at the time. I moved a lot better than I did when I played, but I was concerned. My biggest concern was like, I almost knew for a fact that I was gonna, if I showed up and wanted to play football, that they were going to be like, okay, you know what, you're too slow to be a wide receiver and you're too slow to be a free safety, but we want you to put 50 pounds on and go play outside linebacker. Like that was, and
that
then
makes sense.
my baseball career would have been in jeopardy.
Yeah.
So that was, I knew that at the time too, because I love football. I wanted to play football. I loved it. I loved everything about it. But I also was like, I can see where this thing is trending. And you know, I had a brother that was playing in AA for the Tigers at the time, and my dad and uncle played in the major league. So I had some form of understanding kind of how the process was going to work. So
I was reading that. I didn't even know your dad played. Your dad and uncle played.
Yep. The last time my mom and dad met, they both were playing for Montreal in the late 60s and or early 70s. And spring training, met my mom, and the rest is history. So.
Wow.
That's actually
What would have been
crazy.
who would have been your football player comp? Like, who would you say that your game represented?
Oh my gosh.
That's a great question.
I want,
We're
could,
gonna pull this
you
film.
Flex a little bit, like if you know, like
Somebody asked me this recently, and I basically said I was like a slower Cooper Kupp. Because
Okay.
I ran good routes. That was one thing I was good at. I was good at running routes, and I was just fast enough. Didn't have much separation speed, but like I was not. I was somewhat undersized, not fast, but like had kind of good wherewithal on the field.
gritty, good at routes, blue guy.
I was fine
Gonna
doing that
block.
stuff.
So all the white receivers.
Yeah,
you know
right.
what I mean?
You know he's gonna go block the safety. He's gonna handle business
He's
out
gonna
there.
block till the whistle, even after the whistle.
Yeah.
He's gonna give the extra. Well, now that we're into this, who is the best? This came right from my group text because I told my friends, my brother. my best friend's dad, we're in a group message, diehard Pirate fans.
Yeah.
So I told him I'm having Neil Walker on. I said, give me a couple of questions. So this is coming right from the phone. Who was they all know you're a three-sport athlete. They know you. I'm just going to say that. Who was the best athlete in Western PA that you faced in high school?
Ooh.
Paul Puz. Did you go against Sean Lee? I mean, there's
Sean was a little bit younger than me, and we didn't play. So at Pine Richland, we played 3A when it was still 4A was highest, 3A in like football and some other sports, and then we were right on the cut of the highest.
Oh, yeah.
So some sports we would play up, and then some sports we wouldn't. So Upper St. Clair, I never really came across Sean, but I can tell you in football, one of my favorite stories I tell is about Paul. We played him in the Whitfield Championship, and I'm playing wide receiver. In the first quarter, I catch a hitch, and I turn it out. Paul's playing middle linebacker, and he's coming across, and I stop,
Right.
and he comes across, and he kind of gets an arm on me, and I keep going, and we ran the same play in the third quarter, and I kid you not, I've never been hit harder in my entire life. Like I thought I got tackled into the stands when he hit me, and I got out. I said, maybe my football career's.
I mean, Paul's a freak.
So,
Yeah.
but I think probably the best athlete that I had seen across all sports, not to say the best at every single sport, was Adam Michael. I don't know if you knew.
I know
Adam.
Michael.
Yeah, so Adam,
Yeah.
the Michael family and Stowe Rocks. He was a really, really good baseball player, obviously a really good football player. I think the 2 years I won Whitfield Player of the Year, I shared it with him. And so he was a very good basketball player. He's coaching at Nebraska now.
Dog.
He was a very good player and kind of similar, like undersized guy, but just gritty, was really good at everything. He was probably the best athlete. He wasn't the best football player or basketball player or a baseball player that I came across, but he was just an unbelievable athlete.
So through high school, when you were obviously you dominated in baseball, did you expect to get drafted out of high school in baseball and then not play football, or like how was that whole process of being a two-sport athlete, not really knowing, but you saw I'm sure your dad saw the potential of like you being a pro baseball player. So how did that kind of go down?
Yeah, it was kind of weird. I mean, I remember my senior year. So actually, to preface that, going into my senior year in the early 2000s, it wasn't like it is now with obviously number one social media, but getting seen. Like everybody, at least from this region,
yeah.
it was like you got seen in the Northeast, the East, and the Southeast, right? So like you knew the better players over here. You knew nothing about Texas or Arizona or those type of areas. So anytime I would go to a showcase, it would be in like Georgia or Tennessee. And so I got invited to play, to try out for Team USA going into my senior year of baseball. I knew that going into that there was a chance that I might get drafted in top 10 rounds, something like that. So I went to the showcase, which the showcase was to make the team. Ended up making the team as a catcher. And that was the first time that I played against guys across the country. Yeah. And so I was like,
wow.
okay, I knew I was okay, but like now I see where these other guys, where I stack up. So that, from a confidence standpoint, really helped me going into the season. Signed a letter of intent in November with Clemson. And then when the season started, especially around here, we had, even if we made the playoffs, you had like 20 to 25 games to showcase what you were going to do.
Yeah.
Right.
And most of that was going to be played in April and May, or in March and April, where the weather is just horrendous for baseball. So I knew that I had to play really well just to get some eyes on me. In the first half of the season, I had some people coming in, and then all of a sudden I just kept playing better, and like May rolls around, and like people were showing up a lot. And I'm taking batting practice pretty much after every game, and people were calling the house, and it went from like top 10 rounds to like top 5, and then all of a sudden people were like,
first round. Yeah,
there's a good chance, and it was either the Orioles at 8, the Pirates at 11, or the Cardinals at 15.
That's nice.
And so I had a really good idea of how that was gonna go down, and then when the Pirates picked, I played a game that night at Washington Wild Things Field the night I got picked. And got the loss as a pitcher, believe it or not. So,
you pitched.
Yeah, I hated pitching. I mean, I absolutely hated it. Nobody wants to be on the mound.
That kind of leads me into my next question. Like the change in baseball positions, like you played how many positions in the MLB? Mm-hmm. Like how important is it for a young baseball player to just play every position? Third base, first base, catch, pitch, center field, left, like all that stuff.
That is like the number one thing when we go to teams working out, or you talk to, especially the older kids, the high school age kids, you tell them, like, kids will be like, yeah, I'm a shortstop or I'm a center fielder. And you're like, I'm telling you, I see you're a great player. Don't get me wrong. I'm telling you, make sure you take fly balls in right field and left field. Make sure you take ground balls at short, second, first, because you never know.
Yeah.
And typically, if you're an up the middle player, it's typically a little bit easier to make adjustments other places. For instance, if you can play shortstop, you can typically play second or third or first. And if you can play center field, it's a little bit different. The corners and outfield are a little bit harder. But yeah, I mean, for me, I didn't think I played 20 games in the minor leagues when I got called up to the big leagues, and I spent all of 2010. I got called up in like mid-May, and they were like, "You're going to play second," and I was like, "You mean the position I played 20 games in my entire life?" Yeah. And I kid you not, I sat there a second and was just like, "Please don't hit the ball to me." Like,
Yeah,
I'm gonna mess this up somehow. Please don't hit the ball to me.
I don't think people realize, especially with the baseball drafts. Obviously, the premier guys are usually pitchers or shortstops, center fielders.
Correct.
But you'll watch how drafts happen, and it's not like football. Football, it's like, hey, we need a DN. We're getting a DN. Right. Baseball, it's best guy available because he might not come up for the next 5 to 6 years, depending on the situation. But also, you'll see somebody go into the draft, and they'll draft like 4 shortstops because each one of those guys are going to play a different position. And, do you feel like it was easier to start learning that early on compared to – because obviously you played, second, first – what else did you play in the big leagues?
So drafted as a catcher. 3 years into pro career, moved strictly to third. Played 3 years there. Got to the big leagues as basically a third baseman, and then the following year they were like, "We're not sure what we're going to do with you, but we think you can hit at the big league level." So one spring training, I was literally playing first, second, third, right, left, and doing like some back and catching, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, what's happening here?" Yeah. But to your point. There was a handful of years ago that the Angels chose a pitcher in every single round. Every single round.
Like the Browns this year.
Every single round. Yeah. So there's different philosophies, but typically, if you're a position player, they want the athletes that are playing up the middle, the center fielders, the shortstop, the catchers, and then obviously you want the power arms if you can get them in today's day and age. But it's that. But to your point, like. If you're a kid out there watching this and you think that you're strictly a shortstop, like go play other positions.
Yeah, because when you go to the Team USA tryouts and stuff, it's just 9 shortstops on the field.
Right.
You play center field today for us, and then you go play your high school game and you go play shortstop.
Yeah, I mean O'Neal Cruz is playing center field for us this year,
and he's a dog.
He's a shortstop. He's a 6'7" shortstop.
Yeah,
which is crazy. Take me to the draft day. Like you were obviously playing a game, so it's probably a different experience. You were playing when you got drafted, but what was that like knowing that you got picked from Pittsburgh, being from here? Like the Pirates, we're diehard Pirate fans. Like it's a baseball town. It's a football, baseball. I mean, it's a hockey. It's a sports town, but there's some diehard Pirate fans. So what was that like, just knowing you're coming home?
Yeah, and that was my hope was to get drafted by the Pirates, and I remember. School was just let out a handful of days before that. It was like the second week of June. We're at our house in Gibsonia here, and there's just people everywhere. But we're told to keep the phone lines open, and you can watch the computer. That was it. For like, and now the way they do it, like even in baseball, it's a huge long draft. Yeah. There's still people like first and second round guys, like they show up to the city. This is not like that. It was like, okay, what pick is it? Oh, 1, 2, 3, and like people were playing catch out in the front yard, and it's just pure bedlam in the house. And then 11, and it's like, everybody be quiet. Hopefully this is it. And then they call your name, and it was just like mayhem. And then when the dust settled, and I had to run up to the high school and do an interview, and we were like, I got a game in like an hour. I got to go. We got a state playoff game.
That's insane. That was 2004.
2004, yeah.
2004. So then I was reading. I did a little homework. You didn't make your MLB debut until what? 3 years into that?
No, 2009.
Oh,
so
5 years.
Yeah. So as a high school guy, especially a position player, typically that's kind of that was a trajectory before they cut off basically 2 teams per organization now. So I went to rookie level, which was in Florida at the spring training complex, where they had just like controlled environment games, whatnot. And then I went. I finished that year off in Williamsport, where there was like the college level introductory program. And the following year I was in Hickory, and the following year I was in Lynchburg, Virginia, and the following year I was in Altoona, and the following year I was in Indianapolis.
So as a first round pick, do they kind of expect you to that trajectory should be quicker? Like you should be maybe
College
2
guys.
years.
College
Guys, not high school.
Yeah. So the way they used to see it was like, if you're after 3 years, their hope is that you're at AA, because if you were say you were a high round college draft pick, you're probably starting at that same spot, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So like it's basically the same as going to college for like the first 3 years. Most of it is hand holding, teaching you how to be a professional, lifting, getting used to playing way more baseball than you ever have. And that's how it ended up for me. I was in AA like right around the time where I could have been getting drafted out of high school. So everybody that I played with, like in Team USA that went to college, when those guys got drafted, you all ended up in the same spot anyway. But I just was lucky enough to spend time in Hickory, North Carolina, in the middle of summer, and Lynchburg, Virginia. You know what I mean?
That's nice.
That's crazy.
Is there a learning curve for how many games that you play? Like coming from you get drafted high school, college. How many games are there for a college season?
Like 60-ish, somewhere around there, 60,
You're
70.
playing 100 more games in the MLB.
Yeah.
Is there what kind of like
That's nuts.
the wear and tear on your arm, body, everything? What kind is that crazy?
So, the days of like trying to get guys off their feet and give them a blow, like that wasn't going on in the early 2000s.
No.
So I was drafted in 04, and I caught a handful of games that year, but then going into the next year, it was like full spring training and then season, and went to Hickory as a 19-year-old, and they were like, "You're catching every day," and I was like, "There's 140 games. What do you mean?" And
oh my gosh.
and they were like, "If you're not catching, you're going to DH too." And I was like, "Oh, okay." So I think out of like 142 games that year, I think I caught like 125, and then DH like the rest of them. There was like I had to be. And I don't know if you've ever been to Hickory, North Carolina. Like, it is hot.
It's real hot.
It is in June, July. It is like I'm warming a pitcher up before the game, completely sweated through all my gear, go in, change, and then play the game.
See, I feel like at that point, though, like what you had to do there was just a testament to you being a 2-sport athlete, 3-sport athlete in high school, because a lot of people are trying to stay to just one sport nowadays, which I think is the dumbest thing to ever exist right now, because like you being a shortstop, the reason why you could play multiple positions because you also played basketball.
Yeah.
You also played football. So you had the ability to stop on a dime, to cut.
Right.
A lot of these kids playing one position or one sport, right? You could see at certain times in their season, like, you could tell you only play one sport.
Right,
you can't move like that. So
Right.
then that leads into my second thing. We talked out there about my man, John Skiba, which is my guy, right?
my guy
And without John, I probably wouldn't have made it to college, to be honest with you. So, like, talk a little bit about him and your relationship, because I used to ask him all the time, who's the best receiver that you ever seen? I used to wait for him to say me, and he would say Neil every time. It pissed me off. I'd be like, yo.
He was messing with you.
I was like, yo, who's this Neil dude, yo? And then I look, and he's like, oh, he's on the Pirates. I said, all right, touche. You know what I mean?
Skeeves was awesome. So we had a in the early 2000s at Pine Richland, we had an awesome football program. And Pine Richland in late 90s, early 2000s, we were still playing at the old high school and the old high school field. Like it was not what people wanted to do.
Right.
So we move into the new stadium up there, and like kids, your kids that maybe didn't necessarily want to play or like want to be part of a team. And all of a sudden, you saw the numbers on the football program go from like 30 guys to 55 guys, and you're like, well, what's going on here? And you just saw people want to be a part of it, right? Which was not what was going on before. But we had Paul Fela was the quarterback coach who played 2-sport athlete at Notre Dame. And we had a bunch of guys that were from the early 90s NA football program, which was really good.
Yeah.
Claire Altimus was the coach. We just had a lot of guys that had not just really good like high school college experience, but college experience. So like they came in and they were like, and Skiba too, was like, we're not messing around here. Like you either want to be part of this or you don't. And if you don't, you're gonna hear from me.
Right.
And so we were talking about it. I was like, has he calmed down at all? He's like, no. He runs a tight ship, but he was so good about. He was kind of our glue coach, right? He kept us all together. He knew when to give the tough love, but he also knew like, football is not easy for everybody, but he knew the value of like everybody pulling in the same direction to get to the common goal. And not just him, we had a group of guys, and then on top of that, we had some really good athletes. So that was that. And to that point, like people asked me when I was a senior, they're like, "You're not playing football, are you?" Like, and I'm like, dude. There's nothing I enjoy more than like Friday night football.
You
Sure,
feel me?
Yeah.
the 2-day suck in August, and the early season games when it's hot out and you're playing crappy teams or something. But so we had to have a conversation with the coach. Like I said, I was playing wide receiver and safety, and my dad was like, "Hey, can you do me a favor? Like, try not to let him run too many slant routes, like in the middle of the field." And I'm telling him as a safety too, like, I don't want you dropping down in the box too many times.
Man, that's crazy.
Trying to save yourself.
They didn't want me to, but I was returning punts. I was returning kicks. I never came off the field, which was so fun. But yeah, it was. There were a lot of people that were like, "You're out of your mind. Like, why would you even do this to yourself?"
Yes,
I love that though. That lets me know that you're a real athlete, right? Because like
wants to play.
to me, like anybody who just wants to play,
Right.
that makes me excited and happy to also coach because I coach now, right? When
Yeah.
you find a guy that's out there, and he's like, "Yo, I don't care what y'all are talking about, just let me play ball."
Right.
And then you see you go play in the MLB, it makes sense because that dog mentality that you had on the football field, it comes immediately into baseball. Like you're not going to really worry too much about how many days you're playing, although it sucked to play 100 and however many days you played.
Right.
For you being on who you were, you kind of did that in high school because you played 3 sports.
Played all 3
You know what I'm
sports,
saying?
yeah.
So just again, lean into that, man, because I don't think a lot of high school kids understand how important it is to play multiple sports,
Yeah.
right? Because he was a dog at other sports.
Yep.
I played other sports. He played other sports. Like it's important. You know what I mean?
and that's like the biggest polarizing conversation with high school athletes now is like when is it somewhat appropriate to be more sport specific, right? And to your point, Trey, it's like like I said, I didn't even know, and times are different now. I didn't even know until halfway through my senior year that there was a decent chance of even getting drafted. My thought process was like, I love baseball. I want to go play. I love football. If there were a scenario where it made sense, I'd love to do both in college.
Right.
But I knew how demanding that was going to be. But in today's day and age, people ask me all the time, like, my son's in 8th grade. He's really good at this, but he likes basketball, and it's like, but it's hard to play back-to-back seasonal sports, and it's like, man, like.
He's 13.
Until you get like your junior year, senior year, like just play.
Yeah.
Play.
That's the thing that I keep coming back to with just, my kids are 8 and 5. Is like, man, I feel so bad if I were a parent and my kids went to high school and maybe they weren't excelling at any sport, but they liked to play all of them and they had friends in all different sports, and you got a coach that's like, hey, you got to pick one or you got to pick two, and you're like, well, I don't really think I'm gonna go to the next level and play. Like I enjoy playing, I enjoy my friends, and what if you pick one sport and all of a sudden you're a sophomore or junior and you're at a school like North Allegheny with 800 boys in it, and all of a sudden you think you're gonna be on the varsity or even JV, and they're like, there's too many kids in the JV, you're not quite cut out for varsity, you're gonna have to go try something else, and all of a sudden you haven't played one of your other sports for 2 years too.
Yeah,
like
man.
that's where my brain goes. And like I said, I know things are different these days, but it's so hard to grasp that concept, especially now as a parent.
Right.
Yeah. So speaking on mentors, I was reading that your father played obviously a pivotal role in, he was struggling with like arthritis. I think I was reading that he was still helping you through that. But another piece that I also saw that was very interesting, and if you want to talk about it, but he was also potentially supposed to be on the plane that unfortunately ended for Roberto Clemente.
Yeah.
And if you want to just talk about obviously the role that your father played in just being in the majors, the impact that he's had, just even from a father-son
Facts.
relationship, but also like, what does Roberto Clemente mean to like you, to the city, to your father, and just, is there something in like, is there destiny that you feel like that? He wasn't on that. Like, what do you feel about all that? Because that's very deep. And
That
I know
is
it's a
deep.
deep question.
Yeah.
But
That is deep.
No,
I'm just interested.
And I just, when you mentioned, I'm getting goosebumps. Like I get goosebumps every single time I
hard
tell the
to
story.
ask,
So yeah, obviously early, whatever that year was, I think it was
72,
72 going 73. I can't remember.
Yeah.
71. So my dad's playing pro ball, winter ball in Puerto Rico. So for non-baseball people in the wintertime, as like a AA or AAA guy that's not quite big league ready, you would either go to like Venezuela, Mexico, Puerto Rico, or Dominican to play winter ball, which I played twice. I played Mexico and Venezuela.
It's gonna be pretty cool.
It's pretty
That's
cool.
cool as that.
It's a totally different mindset, right? But my dad was down there playing, and Clemente was the king, and at that time he was still playing pro in the majors, so he was like a player coach kind of
Right.
guy, which is not uncommon. Pujols and some of these guys do it. And the earthquake in Nicaragua happened, and the humanitarian that he was like, all right, let's gather as many supplies as we can. Let's load this plane up. I'm going to get a plane. I'm going to get a pilot. And it was between Christmas and New Year's, so they didn't play baseball like that week. There was kind of a break. And so all these guys are kind of all living, Puerto Rico's not huge. Everybody's kind of living in the same area, whether it's San Juan or whatever. And they were like, we got nothing to do for the next week besides hanging out at the pool or the beach or something. We'll help you. And so, I don't know the numbers, but mass amounts of players that were playing down there at the airport, loading the plane. And the plan was to load the plane and hope there was enough space for whoever wanted to go, because it was just going to be like a day trip, offload, plane back to San Juan. And all these guys are there, and the plane's getting full, and it's just getting stacked up. And Clemente's like, this is too full. Just me and the pilot are going to go. That's it. And everybody's like, no, we'll take a couple cases of beer. We'll just sit on boxes, play cards, whatever. It's no big deal. And he was like very adamant, like, no, like nobody else is going. And like players were mad. Like they were like, this is ridiculous. Like it's New Year's Eve, we got nothing to do now. What are we gonna do? And they leave. I remember my dad telling me, he gets in a car, goes to San Juan to his hotel, and like he said it was eerie. He said like he pulled up and people were listening to the radio, like most people were listening to radio, music were not, and he was like, time stopped, and all you could hear on the radio was like a announcement about something, and the announcement was a plane just went down off of San Juan.
Wow.
And my dad was like, who are they talking about? And they said, hey, they think it's Clemente's plane. They're trying to figure it out. And he's like, well, I just left an hour ago. What are you talking about? Like there's no way. And it basically went up and then just went straight down.
That's crazy.
And so, but that, so obviously I was told that story so many times as a youngster. And it never really like truly hit home to me until I got old enough to grasp like the gravity of it. But the best thing I can say that my dad brought to me was not along that perspective, but just perspective in general. I'm sure you've played with guys that like, if things don't go well in a particular game or practice, they'll beat themselves up, which is fair. But they might also have a father or a sibling or somebody that just piles on too, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
I played with so many guys that like, you'd be on the road and they'd go 0 for 4 with 3 strikeouts, and you hear them on their phone, like on the bus back to the hotel, and you hear the dad being like, what are you doing? Like, what are you swinging at these pitches for?
Mm-hmm. Right.
And I can say to this day, the thing that I love the most about my dad was like, it was never about like how you were actually doing, because number one, he understood how difficult baseball was at that level. It was always, were you prepared? Were you being a good teammate? Were you being a leader? Like what were you doing leading up to that game? Were you as prepared as you could be?
Yeah.
Because if you are and you still sucked up an 0 for 5 with 4 strikeouts, we're good. Like, and he would always say like, son, the sun's gonna come out tomorrow. Like, and you're like, Dad, stop saying that. You know what I mean? Stop saying it. But you think about it, you're like, he's right. Like,
he's 100% right.
You can't worry about the good, the bad, the in between. Like, you have to find a way to ride this wave in the middle and not let yourself get too down or get too up, because in baseball, as in a 17-week football season, like emotionally, you can't ride that wave way up here or down here.
You gotta be
You have to find a way to ride that middle wave, right?
It's funny you said that, because the emotions of a season, like football. I mean, dude, we were 6-2, whatever. I've been on, for my time with the Steelers, I've been on a stretch where we lost 6 straight, where we won 7 straight to finish to make the playoffs, like crazy stretches. And then even like from a personal standpoint, like I'll go 3, 4, 5 games feeling great, like playing 2 dome games. Oh, no wind, no rain, nothing. Early in the season, it's good. But then you can hit a game where like you throw a bad ball, you miss a block, and like the punt's this close to getting blocked, like something crazy. And I feel like a lot of young guys, they will beat themselves up about it. I tell myself next snap, like if I'm not locked in for the next one, like then I won't have a job for the next one.
Right.
I mean,
and baseball is hard too, because I mean, 3 out of 10 gets you in the Hall of Fame.
Which is crazy.
Name another job you can go 3 for 10 and people are like, "You're doing great, dude." Like you just feel like you're terrible all the time.
I tell that to 10-year-olds all the time. I'm like, what would your parents say if you got a 30% on a math test?
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
And they're like, it'd be really mad. And you're like, Well, you realize at the highest level, like if you go 3 for 10 as a position player, like
Incredible.
you're one of the best
cooking.
players in the league.
At almost all the time.
And so, how do you deal with those 7 other failures? Whether, and to kind of answer it, it's like you take your at bats and you try to kind of ball it into one. Was I on time? Did I swing at good pitches? And did I hit something hard? Right? Because there's stretches that you hit 4 balls in a row at 100 miles an hour and somebody catches it, and then there's times where you break your bat with the bases loaded and 2 outs and it finds grass. So it's like water always kind of finds its level, at least in the baseball game. So you have to your point, you have to find a way to always think like my next swing is my best swing, my next at bat's my best at bat, and like trick yourself into.
That's why sports in life are just like the best thing that you could possibly have for a child. You know what I mean? In my personal opinion, like if you're a kid out there and you're not playing sports, I worry about you. And the reason why I say that is because in life, bro, there's a lot of this and there's a lot of this, and you have to learn on how to battle and stay right here, right? And that's probably the toughest thing that I've witnessed as an athlete and continuously trying to continue my career at one point in time was like, there's so many things that could go left, right? But how do you do the right things, right? And then as you get older, the stadium gets bigger. So now, especially now for high school students, right, they're hoping not to get on social media for them messing up, right? So like, even for them, they're getting that understanding a little bit earlier. They're like, okay, like the stage is a little bit bigger, but like just the importance of not getting too high, not getting too low, and just staying right here, man, that's a life type of thing because there's going to be a lot of adversity in your life. You know what I mean? And there's going to be a lot of this, but how do you maintain this?
Yeah, and to piggyback off of that, do you think that baseball players kind of have like a way they go about life just because of the sport of baseball is solely focused on losing? I mean, you played 12 years in the pros, which is incredible.
Crazy.
What's this? Because football, 2.5 years?
2.5. So
baseball is probably what, like a
average.
month? Like you're lucky to survive a month in baseball because I don't think people also know that how much baseball's happening. Like we got practice, you got practice squad, you know that you got your 40-man roster. Yeah. Basketball, you got G League. Baseball, there's like 40 teams just the Pirates, right?
Yeah, that's the one thing when guys get into pro ball that and there's a couple local guys that I'm helping currently, and it's like you try to remind those guys that are in AA, AAA, like don't be looking at what other guys at your position are doing. Like don't that's only going to cause you stress.
For sure.
So don't get happy when the guy playing your position in the big leagues is struggling. Don't be happy when the guy in AAA.
Karma.
Because guess what? Like if you're not doing your job and fully focused on what you're trying to do and doing it to the best of your ability and doing it well, there's about 6 guys playing your position or more that are right behind you that will take your job in an instant. And it's kind of crazy. Like I remember being in A ball, the 2 A balls low and high, and then AA. And like the group was the same. Like I said, it was kind of hand holding at the lower minor leagues at that time. And then all of a sudden you got the AA, and it was like, phew, like nobody. There was like 2 other guys that you played with out of like 50,
and just new guys
gone, just like gone. They either stopped developing, or they were getting older, or somebody in the organization was like, you're done. Go to another organization.
Yeah.
And so that taught you the value of like. Not that it's a selfish way to look at it, but like I need to take care of myself, what I need to do mentally, physically, emotionally, so that when game time rolls around every single day, I need to be as sharp as I possibly can.
Yeah. I just heard a guy talking about it. It's the littlest things. Like obviously, Christian, it's the little details that you do in your sport. But baseball, I heard somebody just say it. You're 1 hit a week away from being like that guy and being that much better. Like if you're talking about going 3 for 10, right? You're 300. Well, if you go 2 for 10, you're now 200. So like you're 1 hit away. So if you could stack 1 extra hit a week, you're in a whole different echelon. So like you have to be at such a flow state. And I played baseball the longest of any sport, and it is just such a mental sport.
For sure.
Hearing about the yips and like just having that mental block where the guy, you can't make a certain pitch. You don't know what it is. Nothing's changed. Nothing has changed. And then to be in the batter's box to know that, okay, I got a guy like Paul Skeens trying to pitch to me. He's throwing 90 plus down the middle, and then you watch the track. I'm sure you've seen it, obviously, broadcasting and stuff. But you're watching the pitch, and I love the animation where it's him releasing the ball, and then it just spreads to like 50 different parts of the zone. He throws 9 pitches at 90+ miles per hour.
375 hundredths of a second or something to react.
Yeah,
Like, good luck.
And it's just unbelievable.
Well,
So
you're definitely your own worst enemy in baseball, right? Because there's so much downtime. There's so much. You may hit and then not hit for another hour, right, in a game, or 45 minutes. So like, there's a lot. And when people ask more specifically on that, I was like, I felt like I was just dumb enough to like wash it away.
Right.
Because I played with guys that were super studious and they would just constantly be thinking like, I'm not good enough. You're looking up and they're playing well, and they hold themselves to higher standards, but you're like, dude, you're gonna wear yourself out, like trying to continually, change things or whatnot. Like you need to be convicted in what you're doing, and you know what? If it's not, like I said, if it's not good enough, then we'll go try something else.
Yeah.
But like at the major league level, the difference is like so small.
It's crazy.
So
Was your back to your dad? I don't want to talk too much on it, but was your dad like one of those crazy baseball dads that you were catching extra ground balls or he was throwing extra pitches in the dirt for you as a catcher, or was it like you were just kind of natural at this?
So that's interesting. I'm the youngest of 4. I have 2 older brothers and an older sister, and they're 8, 6, and 4 years. My sister's 4 years, and 2 brothers, 6 and 8. So I was like the field rat, right? Like anytime there was practice, my dad dragged me along, and it was like when practice was ending, it was known like, all right, get in there, take some swings, and everybody's like, come on,
Little did they know. Like, looking back on it.
But I will say my dad was working for a healthcare company when I was in middle school and high school, and my brothers and my sister were already in college. So he was traveling quite a bit. And the other thing that I'm glad that he kind of instilled in me was like, I'm not going to do this like I will help you whichever way, any way I can.
Right.
But I'm not going to tell you like you need to go hit or you need to go work out or you need to.
I like that.
You're going to have to figure this out on your own. Mm-hmm. And of course, when you're 13, 14, 15, it's a little bit different. Like but there were many times where it just got instilled in my head. When I woke up in the morning before school, I had a room in the basement that had just a net, and it was like, I'm going to go hit 50 balls off the tee and then get ready for school. So like, there was very little hand-holding, but a ton of support, which was good. And maybe that was because I was the youngest of 4. My parents were like,
he's the
youngest. I'm tired of you guys. But I am very thankful that that it wasn't like, let's go, because it made me, we tell kids this all the time in baseball, it's like, you have to want it, not mom and dad.
Right.
Like, you have to want to do this.
Right.
And if you know how difficult it is, then you're going to put the video games down, you're going to put the phones down, and you're going to go to work. And then once you get your work done, your homework done and whatnot, like then you can kick back and relax. Like, but it's everything is just so small.
You also got to think too, baseball's a semi-expensive sport. You know what I mean? So if you're doing the travel ball, Team USA, all the extra stuff, like,
oh man,
this is an expensive sport. So if you're not gonna do this, then don't do it. You know what I mean? And that's the one thing I feel like right now, because I do AAU football. That's my thing right now. You know what I mean? As a coach, and you see a lot of these kids, it doesn't take much to do AAU football, man.
Yeah.
Like, we could play football in the backyard for all we care. We can all go outside right now, throw them up and bust them up, and we'll probably all still have fun, right? So you see these kids who are now trying to get involved in the sport and take it serious.
Yeah.
And I tell some of them, it's like, bro, we can't walk you to the water. I could teach you how to get to the water, because after that, it's up to you whether or not you drink. Because I don't want to walk you to the water. If I walk you to the water, what's going to happen is you're going to take advantage of that. But if I teach you how to get to the water, you'll figure out every single day on how much you need to go get every time you go there, right? So, like, that's so important, man. And I commend your dad for being the dad that he is and not forcing you, just like, yo, if you want this, go get it. Right. If not, I'm not doing it.
Well, we see that. So with some of the youth stuff that we do, we run the me and a couple guys run the Whitfield Baseball Showcase now, which is big around here, especially more so for like the low the D2 and D3 schools,
right?
Pitt and Penn State and West Virginia, they will show up, but it's more for like the kids that want to go play at the next level, but aren't necessarily the higher echelon guys. And so what we try to do, and to your point, being an expensive sport, we try to reach out to as many inner city school programs too, and say, hey, you guys want to come? Like, we will make it financially easy for you to come, because you're going to have 2 days worth of underclassmen and then seniors. You're going to have 50 to 60 college coaches from Butler Community College all the way to Akron to Ohio University, all the way to Penn State. So they're going to be there, and we want to give everybody the chance to do this. but it's always the same thing with you know, a lot of the inner city guys is like they may not have a car, they may not be able to get to practice, they may not be get to the, but we've seen if we're able to get them there, like they ball out too
Every time,
it's
every
incredible.
time.
Like you see these athletes and you're like, I've dealt with these kids for a while, like who are these 3 kids right here?
Yeah.
And they're hitting balls harder than everybody, they're built bigger, and you're like, and the coaches respect these guys, the hell out of these guys, to your point, because it's like, you know how difficult it is for these guys to get here. You know he's probably wearing 3-year-old football or baseball cleats.
Right.
You know his bat's probably dead.
Right.
You know from using it for the last 5 years.
Yep.
And so that's the type of guys that coaches are looking for.
Every time.
And you find that a lot of those guys, the respect they have, not just for themselves and the college coaches or pro coaches, but teammates and people trying to help them is exponentially higher than a lot of other guys.
Yeah.
Can you like when you go and see these kids, can you tell raw talent when you like, can you be like, that kid has legit potential to do great things? Looking at him as a 13-year-old, 15-year-old, can you look like with your baseball experience and be like, that kid's, because you could look at a football guy or basketball guy and be like, the kid's got raw talent. Like,
Right.
we can work with that. Can you do that in baseball, or is it just more of like, I got to see him on the field, I got to
Right.
watch a couple games, how he reacts,
Yeah.
how he does everything?
The eye test. So there's a lot of polarizing topics of discussion along those lines with baseball.
They
because
talk
it's
about
gotten-
the eye test so much in baseball.
Yes, it's it's a lot more older type of guys that didn't have Trackman systems, that didn't have Rapsodos to get spin rate on pitches and whatnot. That's, you want to be able to evaluate by the sound of the ball off the bat, and then maybe you use the numbers to merit like certain guys. But what's happened in baseball for the most part, it's become somewhat at the high school and middle school levels, it's become somewhat of like a showcase sport, right? So guys go to these showcases and they may be 6'4", 6'5", 220 pounds, and the strongest guy in the room, but and have all sorts of crazy numbers with their
Right.
metrics and whatnot. But you go watch him play, and you're like, well, this guy doesn't know what this guy doesn't know what he's doing. You're watching him in the outfield. He's not backing up bases. He's not. He doesn't know where to be. He doesn't know how he's in the batter's box and situational stuff. Like, you're like, well, what is he trying to do? You know, there's a guy on second and nobody out. Where you try to move this guy to third base, right? Like, figure out how to do it. So it's gotten harder. It's gotten easier and harder to evaluate guys, and I don't like to kind of try to evaluate players until they're like past 14 or 15, when they're more mature physically,
Right.
and you see them move. But you're looking a lot, to your point about playing more sports. You're not necessarily looking for guys that are playing other sports, but you're looking for guys that move like they
Right.
play in other sports, because it's easier to profile those guys that, holy cow, this kid his hips move really well.
Right.
It's like, oh, he played defensive back on the football team or something, right? Like, he's going to be able to make adjustments in the outfield. Yeah, this guy's got arm strength, but he doesn't know where it's going. Like,
Right.
where are you going to put him in the field? You might be able to put him at first base, but like, so to your answer, yes, I can evaluate those guys, but it's more like the 16, 15 plus year olds, and you have to almost completely take out the metrics with it, but then use the metrics to solidify that.
So, like, with the Trackman and everything going on and all the technology that we have now, like, we can see how the pitches are moving. Are the pitchers getting better, or everybody's getting better? The whole sport's getting better, but then you look back at the history of baseball and how many great players were in the early 2000s, in the 90s, Ken Griffey. I mean, we can go on and on about guys that were unbelievable without any of these technology systems going on. So, like, how important is it to read a Trackman on a guy like Paul Skeens and then go into the batter's box? Is that even helping you when a guy's thrown like that?
It's more prevalent for pitchers because, for instance, Skeens, if he goes into a start and his ball's not. I mean, so last year I remember Jared Jones, who was a stud, right? It was about his 5th start, and it looked like he was getting a little bit tired. Like, maybe he could have skipped a start or something. They were able, through the Trackman system, to tell that he wasn't, his extension, like where he was letting go the ball, was for some reason like 5 inches back. And he was cutting balls off. He wasn't getting life and explosion on his ball. So he obviously didn't know that when he was pitching. Otherwise, he would have tried to make an adjustment.
Right.
After the game, going in the next day, they were like, hey, let's go over some of this stuff. And they're like, do you realize that your extension on your fastball was like 5 inches shorter than it normally is? And he was, I'm sure, I don't know this, but I'm sure he was like, oh crap, like
I got to get through.
Yeah, that
Yeah,
extra
I think-
5 inches is huge.
Yeah, right. So
Right.
you can't really do that with hitting on the hitting side quite as much because it's so much more about like, am I swinging at strikes? Am I finding the barrel? Am I on time? But for pitching, like you can literally, like when we do the broadcast, we have the spin rates on all the guys' pitches too,
Yeah.
and you can get that information during the game too. Like those guys know where their numbers are supposed to be,
That's
and
crazy.
if they go out of start and their slider is at 2,100 RPMs and it's usually at 2,300 RPMs, like they know that they were either like not on the side of the ball and they're able to make those adjustments based on
Yeah.
technology.
Now
See-
is the pitching coach looking at that live
yeah.
too? So
Yeah.
is that determining
Maybe not
the
like
length of
in real
starts?
time,
Yeah.
but like they can get information fairly quickly.
Yeah.
I think that's why sports is just getting better in general. Like these kids have everything
Yeah.
and some for them to be amazing. That's just
Yeah.
up to them whether or not they use it.
I always wondered in baseball too, like how much does a pitching coach help a guy that's on the mound? Like you're in the moment. You're like, if you're dealing, who cares if your shit's short? You know what
Right,
I'm saying? Like
right.
if you're dealing, why
Facts.
change something? But how much does a pitching coach kind of impact a pitcher during if he's through scoreless of 5 innings? We're not saying shit to
no, they're
him.
not saying
Don't
anything
touch
to 'em.
'em.
Yeah, it's
Or like a hitting coach. Like what
Yeah.
are they telling
they're
you?
your
I
best
mean,
sounding board. So there's guys that I've played with, at least on the hitting side, that used hitting coaches like a ton more. Like sometimes they would go up to an at bat and they'd strike out and they come in and go right to the hitting coach and be like, "What'd you see?" And you're
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
"Oh, you
Yeah.
swung at 3 balls," But the best thing that these hitting and pitching coaches can do is like give me the information. So
Yeah.
for instance, like my routine going into a 7:00 game at like 6:20, I'd go in the room with the computer. I'd pull up the starting pitcher for that night. I'd look at his last 3 starts against, if he's righty, against left-handers. I'd look at the percentages, 0-0, 1-0, all these counts, and then I would formulate an approach based off of past at-bats against that pitcher and also what he's been doing lately.
Against lefties and righties, 'cause
Correct.
you're a switch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and then a hitting coach, you're going to have a hitters meeting before every series to go over all the starting pitchers and all the relievers, and they'll give you all the information that you want, and then you can take that. So like you'll literally know. Like I would literally know because I was kind of a stat junkie to a certain
yeah.
degree. Like my goal was as a hitter was like if this pitcher has 3 pitches, if he's got a fastball, a slider, and a changeup, I wanted to know if there were certain counts where he threw that, threw the changeup like 10% of the time.
I get you.
Because if I could eliminate that to a certain degree,
Right.
I was almost looking for 2 pitches.
Yeah.
And it made your at bat a lot easier.
Right.
Now there aren't a lot of young guys that are really doing that because it's a hard skill to learn, and you get up at the plate and there's so many things going through your head. But as you get older, it's like you're not playing with the numbers quite as much.
Yeah.
But to have that information,
Right.
I may get to a 2-1 count, and I know in my head like, well, there's a runner on, there's a guy in scoring position, first base is open, his best pitch is his slider. There's a pretty good chance like a slider might be coming here. Let me see the pitch out of his hand like up and away, because if it's down and in, I'll be able to
Yeah.
barrel it. So that's the type of stuff that you learn and you try to adapt and adjust to as time goes along as a big league player.
Yeah.
Because if you're not trying to find some sort of edge, you'll get stuck a little bit, right?
You're done.
That's
And
cool.
You have to remember, like I can remember if I have 20 at bats against a guy, like it ends up being a cat and mouse game because I know exactly how he's going to pitch me, and I either swing at the pitch that I want and hit it and put it in play, or like swing at the pitch that he wants and strike out or make weak contact or something. So like the cat and mouse game that's going on is really
Crazy.
impressive.
What about
That's really cool.
What about like a hitter like Otani? Like, how do you think he's getting any coaching, or he's just raw getting up there? I feel like every time I watch a Dodger game, he's hitting a home run. Like,
Yeah.
this dude's he's incredible, and I just don't know how pitchers like go up to the mound. I mean, Skeens made him look silly 2 nights ago.
Yeah, I was
mean,
gonna
that
say
was
Skeens
crazy.
is on his
dude.
bunny.
Well,
But-
if you want to do a fun like challenge, go look at the heat maps for like Aaron Judge and Shohei Ohtani, and it's
hot
like
everywhere.
red,
They're disgusting,
like the whole
yeah.
thing. So you got 3 quadrants, right?
Yep.
You got 9 boxes, I think. So the boxes
Yep,
middle
yep.
way up, and for both guys, the only box that's not completely dead red is like up and in. like up at the top of the strike zone, because they hit everything. But so if you watch, like if you're watching, when we watch a game, it's like, okay, he got the 2 strikes. I know exactly what he's going to do. He's going to try to throw the ball just above the top of the strike zone and hope he swings at it and misses it. So, but I call it the 1%er theme, at least in baseball. Like, you got the 1%ers like Judge, Ohtani, Kutch in his prime, and you got like 99% of the rest of us that are just like grinders, right? And trying to maximize what you do well. You forget more about what you don't do well and try to like maximize what you do well. But these 1%ers, you know, I played with Judge in 18 as a second-year guy, and you're like, oh my gosh, like this is
ridiculous.
You're 6'7", 260 pounds with 2% body fat.
Defense end.
You take batting practice, and it's just like you lose 90% of the balls that you hit are home runs to every part of the field. And mentally, a guy like that is so well ahead of everybody else. It's like they're playing on a different planet. So to your point, there's probably not as much coaching going on with like these 1%ers. Whereas a guy like myself, I wanted as much information as I could, and then I knew how to like weed through it to like help me maximize my skills and talents.
Who was the best pitcher that you would say that you faced? I mean, you obviously faced some Hall of Famers.
Yeah.
Who would be your toughest hit for you in your career?
I'd say Roy Halladay, facing Roy Halladay, kind of toward the end of his prime.
The Cardinals?
He was with Toronto. He was with
Philly.
when we played him.
When you played him, Philly.
So what was amazing, and the other guys to add on to that, Jacob deGrom in his prime, Clayton Kershaw. Like, you got in the box and you knew that if you got 3 at bats, you're probably out twice. Like, you get the 2 strikes, you're like choking up and just hoping you get something like a mistake and they don't come. But what's crazy about Roy Halladay was like he knew how to move the ball, both ways. So like visually, what he tried to do when you stepped in the box, he wanted everything to look like a ball out of his hand. So if I'm hitting left-handed and I'm standing in the box, he's going to try to throw front door 2-seamers, so that out of his hand, your first thought is that's a ball, or it's going to hit you, and it comes back in the strike.
That's why you see guys like everybody's like this, and then
Seatbelt.
they just strike, and kids are like,
visually you can't tell on TV. Like a guy that has a 2-seam, and you're standing there, and within a half a second you need to make a decision. You're like, oh, that's a ball. Oh no, it's going
strike.
back. And then he could throw backdoor cutters. So like, you stand in the batter's box, and there's not a pitch that comes out of his hand that looks like it's a strike, and everything he throws is like outer edge, bottom edge, and inner edge. And they may not all be strikes, but like it's the most frustrating thing as a hitter, because your brain is taught to like visually, when a ball is released, to try to identify what's a strike and what's not a strike. And when you have somebody that can basically do, if the home plate is this, do this. It more messes with your brain than anything else when you're standing in the batter's box. You're like, there's no way I can swing at this as a ball. And then it's like strike, strike, and then you're 0-2, and the numbers for pitchers, just whatever pitcher that may be, just significantly skyrockets to getting outs when you get to 0-2, 1-2 counts.
That's my favorite thing about baseball is I think it doesn't get enough light that it is a live game of chess with athletes. And then going back to the analytics, one of my favorite things to see is you see a guy that was maybe hitting 250 last year, now they're hitting 350 in this streak, and it's the slightest thing. He lifts his leg up a little bit more. He's open a half of an inch. And what's really cool about those like statistics, I just watched the one for Paul Skeens. He's throwing 3 miles per hour or less. He was averaging 102. Now he's 99. Oh no. But and it's all in the shift of this little leg kick that he's doing, and now it's giving him so much more direction to throw those pitches that dance all over. And, it's just a live game of chess where a guy steps up to the bat. You're like, I know he throws X, Y, and Z to this guy on this date. It's warm out. He gets a better grip. Like, and nobody knows that. And I think those are the things that need highlighted. And I think social media, and you could probably attest to this, and I do want to, move into, where you're at now in your career, being able to watch these things from, this broadcasting view, this media perspective where – you see all these little things that I think people don't understand, that when you're stepping up to the batter's box, it's or you're on the mound, the approach is shifting at all times of the day. And we had Michael McHenry on, and he's talking about a guy that's throwing, he lives at around 99, but he's throwing 13 back-to-back changeups, and everybody's like, "What the hell are you doing? Throw your gas!" And it's like, no, he's feeling the changeup right now. Good weather, good grip on the ball.
Yeah.
Getting the calls, you got to factor in umps, and there's so much
Like,
to
if you-
baseball
Yeah.
that you have no idea about. So.
If you
Go
go
ahead,
into the hitting cages in PNC, like every team has it. There's a computer down there where like you can pull up this dude in a certain pitcher and the random day of the week
You can
and
watch.
only curveballs, and it'll just be like clip after clip of like.
Well,
That's insane.
and there's
Yeah.
also, and Michael probably talked about this in the batter's cage now. They have these screens that are showing the pitcher,
Yep.
and they'll load up the pitcher for that night before
Yeah.
the game, and they'll be able to get the exact height of the release point,
Which is
the
crazy.
exact pitches and the spin that's on it.
That's nuts.
And so, like an hour before the game, all these guys go in there, and they've essentially already had a bat
Right.
against the guy they're about to go face.
Which is crazy.
And it's still that difficult, right? Like pitching has
Yeah.
never been better in
Yeah.
in today's game than ever, really.
Yeah.
And you got guys that technology that you're able to face Paul Skeens to see every pitch that he has in the batter's cage,
Still can't.
and you still
Still
can't.
can't.
I gotta give you
Touch
credit
it,
though,
man.
man.
Yeah.
You a real film junkie. You could tell. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
you watch a lot of film, and I know there's guys in the league who don't really watch a lot of film, and they're just that talented. And then there's guys who
Yeah.
watch a lot of film, and you're like they're evil geniuses.
Right.
You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And you could just tell you spend a lot of time on your craft. So even watching a kid, you might be able to know what he's gonna do
Yeah.
before he does it, just based on the amount of film you watch. So
Yeah.
like it's cool to see. I don't know from your perspective,
cool.
because we're film junkies from like a football perspective.
Yeah.
But looking at it from a baseball perspective, it's so
Crazy.
much different.
Totally
Like, it's
different.
crazy.
And you gotta, but in my opinion too, you gotta have some self control and self awareness, not to let yourself like go down a rabbit hole. especially in
Overthink it.
baseball,
Yep.
because,
Right.
Can't
like,
overthink it.
My philosophy was like, we're not going to look at the bad at bats. We're not going to look at unless I was looking at like a pitch that was a ball or a strike that maybe I struck out on. I was like, I do not want to go anywhere negative. Whether it's before the game or after the game, like if I'm watching video from that day, I'm not watching the negative stuff. I'm going to pull up my bats where I had good at bats and find the common theme of that.
Right.
Because in baseball, like if you're a hitter, it's typically, did I swing at strikes and am I on time and was I confident in my approach?
Right.
Like once you do that, then you can kind of figure out why you hit something hard or struck out or did
Right.
well or didn't do well. So it's easy to go down a rabbit hole and just be like, because if you did it in baseball,
Yeah.
you just tell yourself you sucked every single day.
100%.
Yeah.
I suck. Like,
Yeah.
We talked about the cat and mouse game, and you're a switch hitter. What's the strategy of being a switch hitter? I mean, obviously you wanna be a lefty facing a righty pitcher because you can
Yeah.
see it longer. Am
No,
I right or wrong?
No, well, kind of. You wanted to switch hitting. Typically, it's easier to hit balls spinning coming into you, right? So as a left-handed hitter, it's much more difficult to have a curveball or a slider going away from you.
Right.
Difficult.
It's much more difficult to hit that pitch than it is coming into you.
Right.
I get you.
Because your hands are here, and I know you want to talk a little bit about torpedo bats, but like
Yeah.
a ball coming in, like if you're reaching, number one, if you hit it, it's hard to hit it hard.
Yeah.
Whereas if it's coming in and it's not a really hard pitch, it's easier to get the barrel
Yeah.
to it.
I got you.
So that's kind of the philosophy. And of course, like balls still move away from you, change ups and two seamers kind of
Right.
would still move away from you. But like you didn't, I was a very good slider curveball hitter. So I started to notice as I got 1,000 at bats in the big leagues, I started to notice less and less of curveball, soft stuff coming into me. So my approach was basically like, if I watched my bats, it was like the first pitch would almost be fastball away almost every single time. And I like to see a lot of pitches. So unless it was a runner in scoring position or something, I tended to just take that pitch. It's either a ball or a strike on the edge. Okay, there you go.
Take it.
The next one was usually like something hard up and in to see if I was bailing out and looking for something there. And then if it was a 1-1 count or a 0-2 count or a 2-0 count, like something was usually like soft going away from me. So
Yep.
like
Wow,
they speed
dude.
you up to
That's
slow you
crazy.
down to in to out,
Yep.
unless you have glaring holes in your hot zones. And so I had to be at least with my skill set, I had to be okay getting to 2 strikes too. But I always thought it was a win for me if my first at bat from a guy maybe I hadn't faced at all or much. If he had 4 pitches and I was able to see 3 or 4 of those pitches in my
win.
first at bat, that was a victory.
Yep.
Whether it was a strikeout or a home run or a walk, that was a victory to me because my next at bat,
Got him.
I've already seen everything. And maybe it's the biggest part of the game. Maybe it's bases loaded and
Right.
down 1 run in the 6th inning or whatever.
Exactly.
Did you find yourself as when you batted lefty or batting righty, you were better a certain way against certain pitchers or against certain pitches? And now that you're not playing anymore, what did you find differently when you batted righty as opposed to batting lefty?
So it's interesting. I was a natural righty thrower, righty hitter when I was a kid, growing all the way up. When I got to about 12, I started to mess around hitting left-handed.
That's
That-
usually
what are we talking
backwards.
about?
That's usually it's the
So you never
lefties.
batted lefty like growing up?
Not until I did it like religiously when I got to like my 10th grade year of high school. So if a righty was pitching, I'd hit lefty. If a lefty was pitching, I'd hit righty.
And what, you just got out there and you're like, I'm going to hit lefty this time?
Yeah.
That's
So
fucking
you
crazy.
know,
Wait,
visually,
tell-
I see better out of my right eye, so that made it a little easier. And you know, with practice and whatnot, the left-handed swing came around. But
That's crazy to me.
so I was a very good right-handed hitter, and you know, when I was young, and then when I got to high school, and then added the left-handed swing. When you get to pro ball, you have to remember, if I get 600 plate appearances in a year, probably 400 of those plate appearances are going to come left-handed because there's so many more right-handed pitchers in professional baseball.
Right.
So I was still a really good right-handed hitter, still developing left-handed when I got to single A, double A, triple A, and then the at-bats just started piling up as a left-handed hitter, and all of a sudden, like, the left side took off as the stronger side.
Wow.
And if you look, I mean, I was much better left-handed hitter in my career, which is kind of crazy because there was a time where I was a much better right-handed hitter in my career. So
Is that common for guys to just like switch in 10th grade, or did they grow up ambidextrous?
most people I've talked to grew up doing it in some form or fashion from the time they were usually between 8 and 12.
Yeah.
And had some sort of wherewithal, whether it was a parent or a sibling or something that knew the value. For me, the value of it was, if I'm going to catch and I'm going to switch hit, those are two of the most valuable things you can provide on a baseball field.
Smart.
But to your point, it was easier for me to hit balls that were lower. Left-handed hitters typically handle the ball down in the zone and better. So that was kind of my hot zone. So I got a lot of pitches up and away and down underneath the zone. Right-handed, I didn't handle the ball away from me very well. So I would get a ton of fastballs and change-ups and stuff moving away from me. But when I was still swinging the bat well right-handed, I was successful on the inner part. So I would usually move up on the plate as much as I could and try to make the strike zone like a little bit closer to me.
So that logic, I feel like I would think opposite. Do the opposite. Move further back to give yourself an extra 1,000th of a second. You're moving up to speed it up.
Yeah. I mean,
obviously you're
so
the-
it's
you know more than me.
well, and the pitcher knows your weaknesses and strengths, and so do you know
Yeah.
his strengths and weaknesses. So that's kind of the cat and mouse game. Is like, you know how you're going to be pitched, you know what the guy has, and you have to have a lot of at bats to kind of feel comfortable. Like, if I was in a batter's box, I knew basically to the millimeter like where I was standing, where that back foot was standing, right? So if I moved up a half an inch in my brain standing in the batter's box, it would feel like I was standing like right on top of the plate.
Yep.
So like, you typically are going to move back to spots that you're comfortable. So that was something that I fought throughout my career, specifically on the rights as a right-handed hitter, because I wasn't getting a ton of bats and I wasn't doing a lot of damage. I wasn't hitting a lot of doubles and homers, where on the left side, I was doing a lot of damage. So, but would still have been very difficult for me to face left-handers because everything's moving away from you. It's just that it's so hard to make adjustments. It would take like a full off season of doing something like moving around the box comfortably, or changing your hands, or changing your it takes a lot to like make a little bit of a change.
Do you think some of these like unbelievable hitters nowadays can pick up and have a successful at-bat batting opposite? If they haven't done it in their career to this point, like if Ohtani got up and batted, I don't even know what he bats.
He's
a
lefty,
lefty.
yeah.
If he got up and batted righty, could he get up there and swing good?
Probably him.
Like, probably him. But like, these dudes just know the swing and know how to swing and move their body like that. So I'm thinking, like, my buddy that's a golfer, he's a plus handicap golfer. He's like, I'll beat you lefty, which is so insulting to me. But like, he can still get out there and hit. But like, he's not ambidextrous, but he could still get out there and hit it lefty.
That
so
brain.
he's just like, he's been playing golf his whole life and he knows the swing.
Yeah.
Does that apply to baseball or not at the
No.
pro level?
No. Yeah, and that's another topic with like pitchers that we talked a little bit about before we started. Like, if you needed a pitcher to hit, and you still see it even in the AL style of baseball game that NL pitchers don't hit anymore, obviously,
Yeah.
it's gone. but if you gave Paul Skeens 100 minor league at bats and wanted to use him as a major league hitter, how would he do? Well, unless he was there was very few. I guess my point is there was very few pitchers that could successfully have good at bats, even when we were playing the NL style of game, just because it's if you don't work on it, it's
these
really,
are dudes
really
who
hard.
raked in high school
Really
too.
hard.
So like
Ohtani is a unicorn,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Like there's nobody that's done what he's done. Guys have tried it, but then it's like, well, if you're a 2-3 starting pitcher and you can hit a little bit, like, are you providing value if you're just like a nominal hitter, right? Maybe, but
Not really.
Right.
you're probably not better than. You might be better than like the backup catcher or something like that
Right.
hitting, but you're probably not better unless you're an Ohtani type and you just don't see it. So guys will mess around with it all the time, like, oh, I'm gonna take batting practice left-handed today and
Strike out. Yeah.
See, I want to know because for me, when I started coaching, I felt like if I had coached before I played, I'd be a better player. So, like, what's something that you've learned now that you're a coach, right? That you feel like if you could go back and implement this into your game,
Oh man.
what would it be?
He's a film junkie. He'll probably have a million things. He's probably like, he's probably.
Well, the first thing I thought about was I wish I would have taken care of my body better as a young player. Like, and because we've all in football, obviously probably different, but like when I was 21 to 25, I didn't need to get massages. I didn't need to do extra stretching. I didn't need to do any of that. But then all of a sudden I'm 28 and I get back surgery, you know?
Yeah.
And then I'm 32 and I get another back surgery and blow out my hamstring. And it's like, man, I always kept thinking like, if I took care of myself just like a little bit better, I lifted, did all that stuff like you were supposed to, but like, I always tell the kids like, get the massage even if you don't
do
need
the
it.
stuff, yeah.
If your hammies are bothering you a little bit, like roll out a little bit extra.
Yeah, get in
use
the
the
cold
massage
tub.
gun when you're laying in bed. Like use the massage gun as much as you.
Right.
So, but to your question, like I don't know if I've ever been asked that, Trey. Like if I was a coach before I was a player, because I always think about obviously my body failed me at the end of my career more faster than my mind did, but like. I don't know. That's such a good question.
That's a great question. For me, it would be take care of your body more. Like in college, we were playing, and then we'd go out after, and then I'd wake up and
And then
just
we're
had
good.
a night in Southside after we won. Like I was not taking care of my body. Now it's like 2 massages every week during the season, cold tub every day. So and I tell kids like at Duquesne too, and even in high school, I'm like, get in the cold tub.
Yeah.
Like just get in the cold tub. You hit the turf, like how much force you're putting in the turf on your ankles, your knees. Like just get in the cold tub.
Yeah.
I also say this too, Christian. I'm a retired athlete myself, right? But even continuing that after you retire is extremely important because I still get up and stretch and do these things. Because if I don't, now being at 28, I'm not super old, right? But I played a lot of football, right? So I'm really like 52. You know what I'm saying? On my body right now, right? So like I still get up, I do these stretches, but I could tell the difference from a physical standpoint. Like if I don't, I get up and I'm, you know what I mean? Like my hand is shot. My shoulder is shot, right? So if I don't take care of these things now, even though I'm retired and still do those things, you can feel it and you know it's catching you, right?
It takes about 30 minutes. Like I do a whole hip mobility routine before I snap, like 30 minutes.
Got to.
I used to be able to just get out there, start snapping, whatever, we're done. Okay, maybe touch my hammies.
And I do too believe that, and this is good for you, like whenever you're done playing, like for some reason that first year after I got done playing, obviously you're not training the same way.
Right.
But I agree with you too. Like
Still
the stretching and I still like lifting and running to a certain capacity. Not like we train to run 90 feet or 180 feet my entire life. Now it's a little bit different. But I noticed like when I retired that first year it was almost like my body was like adjusting to a new norm of a different type of workouts. And I remember like feeling like my body was telling me like, hey bro, like. You've had a couple bad hammy injuries. Like you better start doing some hammy stuff. Like who wants to do like full blown hammy workouts when you're retired and you're only worried about? For me, I'm worried about playing golf and skiing. Like those are 2 things I love. Right? So I'm not gonna be down there doing split squats and putting stuff on my back. Like no more.
There's
stuff
no
on my
need
back. There's no
nowadays.
need, but you still have to do something.
Right.
So, so remember that.
Yeah, no, I will, because I know that time's coming. Like, I'll be like, I feel it now sometimes. Like, I'll be like, oh man, I gotta do this workout, but I know it's gonna be 35 minutes before I even get into the workout because I gotta warm up. But that's just that's just the nature. That's what makes, like, dude, guys like the dudes in our locker room that have been playing 10 plus years for football, and Cam Hayward's going into his 16th season playing in the trenches, which is just like
unbelievable.
It's just asinine, and he just had an All-Pro season. He's literally one of the best at his position still.
Yeah,
and it's fucking crazy.
What's crazy to me too is so when I was training here, I think I trained with Cole Haley.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I don't. I think you were more down in the Nevillewood location, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
don't classify me Neverwood though. I'm South
Bridgeville?
Hills. Yeah, Scott Township, Green Street. Yeah.
He said, "Don't give me that."
Yeah, no, not South Fayette.
But the thing that I was always completely floored by, dating back to like Heath Miller and some of these guys when I was still training with Cole, was like Monday morning on week 15 of the season. Here comes Heath. Here comes Cam at 8:30 in the morning. You're like,
Yeah, what are they
I
doing?
just saw you get in a train wreck less than 24 hours ago. How are you even getting out of bed?
Mm-hmm.
Like, and that's a testament to your job and like what you guys do. Because, you could talk all day about like, you guys are like, oh, you guys play so many games. How you doing? It's like, well, it's not as physical. Like, you guys are going through a train wreck every single week. Like, and that's a question for you. Like, how do you keep going when it's week 15?
Well, my job's a little differently than like.
Yeah, but you're still taking
for sure,
and heat all game long.
Yeah, and like I'll notice my body because I won't be used to getting hit. Like even in preseason, like I won't. The teams are running 6 box.
Sure.
They're not really showing many looks.
Right.
They're doubling the gunners, so it's not many rushes inside. But week one through 5. Like I'm like sore as shit, and I play like 10 snaps. So like the adjustment of these guys' bodies, like these dudes are religiously in there. Yeah. I mean, every day you'll see, who the true pros are. Yeah. Like you can see who the true pros are. They're in there rolling out every day, same routine. Cold tub before team meeting, cold tub after, hot tub before, hot tub, cold tub after, like stim, everything. They have to. Yeah. You physically have to. And like some of these dudes, like we play Sunday, and then we got to turn around and play. Like we played 3 games in 10 days.
I remember that. I was going to ask you about that.
Against good teams.
Against 3, yeah. I mean, it's crazy. It's just crazy. Like my body feels like shit coming towards the end of the year. I can't imagine these dudes that are like Cam and TJ. Yeah, like these guys are getting crushed.
I learned about lactic acid in the body after going and playing in a high level. Yeah. Because like those days that you're super sore and you're like, bro, I'm not doing nothing.
Yes.
And then you go and work out again and you're like,
feel good.
Why do I feel so good after I just did that, even though I'm super sore, right? Because I used to hate like after a big game having to go in and lift. Like, bro, I just got tackled by a 250-pound man. You think I want to lift right now? Right.
Yeah.
But then you do that lift and you're like, okay, I needed that. Like, I need to get all that, like, junk out of my body. You know what I'm saying? So, like, I was going to ask you, Christian, bro, after 3 games in 10 days, bro, like, those are multiple car crashes in 3 games. Like, this is not nothing against baseball, but I'm not standing in the outfield chilling for at least, you know what I'm saying, 20 to 30 minutes before something comes my way. Football, like, it's 6 seconds at a time, but that's like 6 seconds at a time that I physically got to move this grown man against his will to another area.
Yeah.
That's a lot of time. That's a lot of work.
And like people think when you play on a Sunday and then you got to turn around and play Thursday night, I know it's a huge money grab for the NFL. It's great, whatever. But like every single player hates that. Like,
right.
You don't even practice because if we're going normal week, Sunday to Sunday we play, hopefully a victory Monday. Off day Tuesday, that's everybody around the league. Off day Tuesday, back at it Wednesday. So if you're playing on a Thursday, you finish Sunday, you come in Monday, you're watching the film. Tuesday, you're in, it's like a walkthrough in baseball caps. Wednesday, half the guys still aren't moving because that would be their typical first day of practice. They're still not ready to go. Put the baseball hats on again, walk through, and then Sunday or Thursday, you're playing. So it's like no practice, nothing. You just walk through play.
Man.
It's crazy.
That is crazy.
Sounds like 707.
Yeah, right. The baseball equivalent of that is like people don't you don't hear a lot about it, but people internally talk about it a lot. Is like going from the West Coast or the Mountain Time zones to the East Coast because there's time. The rule is like the Pirates are off today, right? And they were in LA on yesterday. Yeah. So since they're coming 3 time zones back home, they have to take an off day
Right.
because
That's mandated.
mandated.
Okay.
Yeah, but if you're going 2 time zones, say you play in Colorado where it's 2 time zones back, and you go to Cincinnati, you may play. It may be a night game, and then you travel, and then you play the next day. Like your internal clock is so screwed up for like 3 days until you get adjusted. Then all of a sudden, like you go to another place. So I know in football, like what do you guys go on Friday? If you're going, maybe a team from LA is going to Washington.
So different.
Friday,
right?
maybe, yeah.
To try to get adjusted. But in baseball, like if you're going to the West Coast as an East Coast team, you're probably playing 2 series, which is either 6 days or 7 days.
Right.
So you're fully adjusted.
By that
and then when
time.
you come back, like these dudes are probably still sleeping right now. They came back.
100%.
They're gonna wake up and your off day is gone. By the way,
Right.
like, and your mind is like, why does it feel like 9 in the morning and it's 2 in the afternoon?
See, that's what's blowing me about the new like NCAA stuff with the Big Ten, because you got guys from USC, California, you got
Penn
right,
State.
and then you got to go to whole weight and play over there, and I only got 1 day to get acclimated, bro. I'm terrible with jet lag, bro. Like I'm gonna be dead by the time games time starts.
We go to Ireland this year, so I'm like,
Oh my God.
I'm interested to see when we're gonna leave, what that schedule's gonna
Right.
look like. Are we gonna be able to go to a pub maybe on a Thursday?
Get a little pint.
Yeah, I gotta.
You might as well just go after the Sunday game before, right?
That's what I'm
Like,
saying. I hope we stay an extra day. Might get a win. Stay in Ireland. Call McGregor. See if we
Guest
get.
Factory.
Yeah.
That's the collab we need.
I want to talk about the torpedo bats.
Yeah.
'Cause that's I don't want to keep you in here too long. We can ask you a million questions, I feel like, but what's up with these torpedo bats? Like, this isn't a torpedo bat, obviously,
No.
but what is these dudes are crushing home runs for the Yankees. First
Yeah.
game, they had like 9 home runs.
So I'll water it down for you. Basically, what they did, and just for informational purposes, the Yankees specifically have been working on this bat with particular like individual players for a long time, for like
Wow.
3 years. So, one of my best buddies is Garrett Cole, and I asked him when we started to find out about these this year, I said, dude, like how prevalent is this amongst the position players? And he's like, dude, they've been they're nerds have been working on this for 3 years. And I'm like, what do you mean? And they're like, they've tracked every player, even in the minor leagues, in their system, and tried to determine like where their misses are, right? Like if you hit the
Right.
ball in the barrel, if you don't hit the ball in the barrel, are you more so out front, like hitting toward the end of the bat, or are you getting jammed more? And they found with certain individuals, like Anthony Volpe was the big one because they had so many at bats and so much information on him because he was in their minor league system. They were like, dude, you get jammed more so than you hit balls off the end of the bat. We've made this bat that we've basically taken the barrel and just kind of moved it down a little bit. And
Interesting.
so your barrel is typically right. It's like right here.
Yeah, that's your sweet
So
spot.
they've basically taken this and just kind of moved it to there, and then shaved this down a little bit, and that's why it almost looks like a pseudo bowling pin. And it's also the Indian, not the arrow at times, right? Like,
Yeah.
if Judge used that bat, he'd probably hit just as many home runs as he does now. But there are instances like with the shortstop Anthony Volpe, where they're like, you're getting pitched in and you miss more so off the end of the bat. Why not give this a try? And guys have been
Raking.
breaking
This
with
is
it.
this is a response to the higher velos and stuff from pitchers,
I
right?
believe
Yeah.
that. And I don't know if anybody will come out and say it, but like there's more with more guys throwing hard, you're getting more swing and misses and you're getting more jams. You're not, the Jamie Moyers of the world that threw real soft.
Right.
Guys were missing off the end of the bat because the guy was topping out at 83
Right.
miles an hour. Paul Skeens, if he throws a fastball into you, you're either probably missing it or you're getting jammed.
I'm be in the dugout running. If that ball's coming at me, dude, I don't know if I could sit in the box. I know he's not going to hit me. I mean, but I feel like I'd be scared as shit in there.
And they're so tall on that mound, bro. I didn't realize pitchers are so tall. Like pitchers are like 6'5", 6'6", 6'7". I'm looking at like,
On the top of the mound, too.
and you get what I'm saying? And that ball's coming down towards me.
Yeah.
Hey, coach, get somebody else in here, yo.
Yeah.
Just get me on the bases. I'll run around for you.
I'll be the bat boy at that point. I mean, fuck.
Well, you'll have to come out. So like mid-December through up until spring training starts. A lot of these local guys like Bednar, Mason Miller, who's the closer.
Oh,
for,
yeah.
He throws 102.
From Bethel.
Those guys on Fridays throw out here in the North Hills at the same place, and there's like 6 or 7 of them, and they have all the Trackman set up, and you can guys catching, and you can stand. This past year, I just stood in when Mason Miller was pitching. I was like, oh my!
I think I get scared.
I need, bro. I'm not gonna lie. I would need full blown catcher equipment to get in there.
He made Dallas Braden take the helmet off and put the bat down. He
that's
threw him a
who did
pitch.
that.
He said, "I'm done. This ain't fair."
Yeah.
That's crazy to think about. This is a professional doing that. So me, that has no idea what he's about to throw at me, I'm chilling. I'm right with you, Christian. We sitting in the dugout chilling, chewing in some gum, or you know what I'm saying, like Coach Danny.
I don't know, dude. You win this home run derby, like you're gonna have some serious clout.
If I win this home run derby, this will piss a lot of people off, and that's what I'm going for, because I know they do not. I mean, it's open to everybody on the team, but not everyone elects to do it because they don't.
Sure.
You know, who knows who's played baseball, but we always have one guy or two guys. We had Russ this year, who was obviously drafted in baseball. We had Tyler Vaughns 2 years ago. He was drafted out of high school in baseball. So we get one guy or two guys like that were drafted in baseball that come out and their swing's totally different. Like I'm swinging like a fucking hammer, dude. Like everyone's like, it makes sense why. Like I'm like choked up, but I hit a couple out. I had a good outing, but
What'd you get last year?
I think I had like 4 out. I lost in the second round. I got gassed.
That's pretty damn good though. That's at a college.
Oh yeah, it's
stadium,
St. Vincent.
right?
It was 300, 320. I mean, it was
Big yard.
It was pretty.
What I've noticed from when past Steelers or playing at other places, when the football guys would come around, you guys with the big shoulders, especially like the linemen, they have such a hard time like actually
rotating.
Like you're fine. You're big enough, but you're still athletic enough. Like
Move.
When Debo was swinging a bat, you were like, bro, I feel bad for you, and I feel bad for that bat, and I feel bad for your whole body, because it was just like.
You have to tell that story, because I know you told it briefly back there, but you went into the facility. You're from Pittsburgh. Pirates come in and visit.
Yeah.
Like you came in and visit, and Debo was still playing. What was?
Yeah.
You got to tell that what he was doing.
We periodically roll in there, and I usually wait until after our season was done, so like October, so that I could kind of go and really enjoy the experience. And one of the first times I went down there, Mike T, he's always kind of back and forth, so I knew him, and a guy named Brandon Hunt went to high school with. He was still in the organization.
B. Hunt, he's with Philly.
We'd watch practice for a little while, and then like he'd say, "Come toward the end of it when everybody's hanging out, I'll take you in the locker room and say hi to guys." And I'll never forget. I'm walking past at the facility. I'm walking past like the glass to the training room, and I hear, "Hey, get in here!" And I'm like, is he talking to me? Like, get in there. And Debo's in there in his underwear, and he's like, how many home runs you hit this year? And I was like, whatever, 15 home runs.
Yeah.
And he's like, God, that's a joke, right? Like, he's like, dude, I could hit 25 home runs easy if I was playing in the big leagues. And I'm like, Debo, come on, man. Like, you can come over to the stadium. We can hash this out. And he's like, I don't need to. Like.
You're not arguing with him either.
No.
You're just like, yeah, you would hit 25 home runs. I would just be like, you would.
And you call him Mr. Debo.
He's a scary man. I don't envy you in that situation, because if he's telling me, hey, he doesn't argue about the long snap.
He wasn't embellishing either. He like firmly believed. But you're right. I was like, yeah, I bet you could. I'm terrible. I've been doing this my whole life, but I'm terrible.
Yeah, I was drafted 11th overall, but I suck. Yeah, I've only hit 15 home runs. Well, damn, dude, this has been awesome. Thank you for coming in.
Thank you, guys.
I don't want to hold you too much longer, but I did have one more. You turned the first 4-5-4 triple play in MLB history. I remember that play. What was that like? Did you know that was the first ever in MLB history?
Yeah, it was kind of crazy. So I'll set the scene for you. We're playing St. Louis. There's a guy on second and third. Yadi Molina was hitting, and Yadi, with guys in scoring position, he always liked to like really stay inside the ball and hit balls to right center field. So I'm playing second, and our cards telling us to play at a certain spot, but I moved because I was like, I've seen him hit balls to the left of the second baseman. And so I moved a couple steps over, and he hits a ball, and Jason Hayward was on second, and Johnny Peralta was on third, and hits a ball, and it looked, and you could tell, especially more from the replay, I couldn't tell, the guys on second and third, the ball's hit, and they thought it was easily over my head. I jump up, and I catch this thing,
Receiver.
And I'm going back to the bag.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm going back to the bag at second and realized that Jason Hayward, he kind of like stopped going to third because he was like, oh crap, he's got me out at second. There's nothing I can do. I'm just going to stand here. But then I realized the guy at third got like halfway down and he was trying to get back. Well, our third baseman didn't even speak English. He didn't speak English. Jung Ho Gang. He didn't speak English. So he thought that there was one out. And he thought that I was going to step on second first. Well, my brain triggered and was like, oh my gosh, we can get three here. We can get three outs because nobody's paying attention. And so I'm running towards second, and I decided to throw the ball to third first because the guy on third was down and he was trying to get back. But the guy going from second to third, he just stopped.
He was dead.
And so we're yelling, me and the shortstop are yelling at the third baseman who can't understand a word that we're saying. And he like starts to mosey off toward the dugout, which was on third base. And all of a sudden he like turns around and I'm like, screw it. And I just throw it. And like finally he like pays attention, catches it, steps on second. And then he thought there were one out already. So we were yelling at him again to throw the ball back to second, throw it to second. And so he throws it back and we catch it. And it was like, oh, wow, that was really cool. I get in the dugout. I have the ball, obviously. And typically when crazy stuff happens like that or big home runs or whatever, like people want the ball. The
100%.
authenticator wants the ball. And I get down there and they were like, it was the first 4-5-4 triple play in Major League history. I was like, Major League history? And I was like, this ball's mine, right?
100%.
But the clubby comes down. He goes, you have to give that. You don't have to give it up, but like we need to authenticate this ball. And so they took it. And it made its way back to me, and they pleaded for me to give it to the Hall of Fame.
Baseball Hall of Fame. And
so I did, but I said, well, I want second base then. So I got a dirty second base.
That's cool.
Whatever year that was,
awesome.
And people come, they're like, what are you doing with a base? What are you gonna do with a base? And I'm like, I don't know what I'm gonna do, but it's the only base that had a 4-5-4 triple play in Major League history.
That's incredible.
That's cool as heck.
That is incredible getting the base. I always think of McClendon when he threw first base. Like when he came and took first base, chucked it. That was one of my favorite moments of all time. Damn, this is great. Neil, thank you very much, boys. Thank you. Like, share, subscribe, retweet, repost, whatever it is. Like a baseball bat.